Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us at the DevOps Summit Canada 2020. I'm really glad to be here to present on the topic of leveraging the power of gamification to improve business results. So, a lot of times people ask us, gamifying things, what is gamification? Um, so, we're going to kind of unravel the mystery of what is gamification and how it has helped to improve business results. A quick background about myself. My name is Suresh GP. I'm the managing director of Top Solutions. I'm also the global ambassador for DevOps Institute and BRM regional ambassador for Asia Pacific. And I speak in a lot of these international conferences. Overall, 19 years in the industry. Um, I was also awarded the top 25 influencers in service management for 3 consecutive years, 2017, 18, 19. And I was also a recipient of 4 Excellence Awards at the BRM Connect in Washington, DC. With that, let's jump straight into this topic of leveraging the power of gamification to improve business results. So the agenda for today is to introduce you to the power of, to understand what is gamification, what are some of the techniques and examples, what does business simulation mean, the structure, the benefits and examples, and then we will take a couple of use cases of how you arrive at the real life examples and how we have implemented business simulations for our clients to improve business results. And then we'll have some time for Q&A as we start to have these conversations around the lessons learned and best practices. Yeah. So let's talk about what's the introduction to gamification. Now, if you talk about the word called gamification, you have lots and lots of aspects that you cover. People talk about rewards and recognition. People talk about motivation. People talk about points, badges, um, digital badges these days, points, masterboard, scorecard. There's a lot of things around gamification. So, what is really gamification in the way we work, right? So, people need motivation. People really need motivation to improvise their day-to-day work. They need to have some healthy competition so that they produce results. It's like playing a game, right? You score points, and the topper gets an accomplishment of an award that we see across. So let's talk about what is the benefit of gamified brain, right? So there are some psychological benefits when it comes to playing a game. Remember, any game that you play, a physical game or a mental game like chess or a physical game like tennis, there is a lot of things that happen which has been scientifically proven as an effect of gamification on the brain. The first one is it increases motivation for people in terms of dopamine, because there is a hormone that gets released. Because when you're in a challenging situation, it helps you to steer the game of how do you can improvise your level of concentration and focus. So, first one is motivation. Then there is another hormone which is testosterone, which affects the mood, self-esteem, energy levels, which becomes good when you try to have this combination of having a game where we are fighting against to win a war or win a battle around things, around aspects of energizing the mood as well as the tempo. It also has been proven that playing games helps you to retain or increase your memory. So a lot of people say that, hey, I'm an absent-minded professor. So it helps you to focus because you are fully engrossed. All the senses are fully engrossed when it comes to a game or a simulation. So you try to pick a lot of things and you remember for your life. So that's one of the reasons that experiential learning is so important for us to retain the memory to a larger extent. It's also been proven by the University of Oxford, the volume of your brain, which we talk about the white matter, seem to increase when we do a lot of this gamification. So It's a consortium that has said that there is a direct correlation between playing games and a larger prefrontal cortex gets increased. So there is a whole lot of evidences of how games are going to help you physically, mentally, and psychologically. Now, if you look at some of the tools and techniques that exist today, we talk about game thinking, inspired design, gamification. We talk about something called um, serious games, and I'm going to spend some time on only on serious games because um, it's not just for fun. It's not the Candy Crush that we are playing. That's one way of working at it, like the UI, the app-based ones. But we are focusing on serious games. So how do you teach people difficult concepts in the form of games? We are looking at focusing on simulation games that we will talk about, identifying people what is the meaning and purpose of what we operate today. How do you get motivated every day, jumping out of the bed, saying that, you know what, I love my job. I'm inspired by the purpose that I want to operate. So those things are focused on what we call as serious games. Then we have always the play games that we play as part of Candy Crush or so many other games that we play for it. Now, it has been proven in terms of motivation, there are different layers, like the Maslow's theory of needs. It starts with the core needs, where you feel safe, secure. You have your psychological needs. Then there are emotional needs, where we talk about in Agile, we talk about mastery of purpose, autonomy, and mastery. Right. So how do we work as cross-functional teams together? So it's kind of more about the feeling of oneness, emotional team. And then there are trivial, basically like the badges and boards and other stuff. So there are different levels of motivation depending on what is the current level that you play and what you want to achieve as part of motivation. So games definitely have a larger part of the motivation in terms of points and rewards and accomplishments. Now, if you look at what organizations worldwide are doing today, they look at a strategy, what we call as the gamification strategy, where we talk about Starbucks. And you're all very familiarized with Starbucks about the loyalty cards. So they launched this program in 2009 in terms of rewards and membership. And you see, on an average, about 80,000 new members are joining weekly. And the Starbucks cards alone account for about $3 billion in sales every year. So they have built in that level of loyalty and trust with these points so that you can redeem if you are a frequent visitor to Starbucks. So they focus on loyalty as a key parameter to gamification. Yeah. So 1 star, 5 stars, and so on. Even the US Army has been instrumental in using gamification for recruiting and training purposes. Now, they use gamification as a recruiting and a training tool to induct people to the army. So, what they have seen, the cost of marketing that is required for people to be recruited in army since 2005 was much larger, but the way they are now able to reach through the TV, they have actually seen a lot more people getting joined across in terms of the numbers. And it's just about 10 cents per person that they are investing to get more people onboarded for serving the country. So a lot of organizations, both public and private sectors, are seeing the way of using gamification as a recruiting and a training tool to deliver more business value. Now let's talk about business simulation games because that's the core topic of what we're going to talk about today. Now, before that, what are the value of business simulation games? It's, and you know this one, that I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. Confucius. So it is actually proven that 75% of knowledge and skills are retained when learning by doing. So that's why it's so powerful, right? It's not death by PowerPoint. You go through this whole journey, you understand, and you never forget about the lessons learned when it comes through experience by practice. So the whole structured approach in the simulation games that we envision is based on Kirkpatrick's model of eight-step model. So you find out what's the problem that you have, what's the objective or problem that you are trying to identify, what kind of behaviors that you want to change in terms of people. For example, in terms of improved collaboration, improved communication, a sense of ownership, it could be any of the stuff. So you first identify what's the problem that you're trying to address and what kind of behaviors that you would want to instill as part of your team in terms of performing at a high performance level. So you need to look at the core competencies. Is it project management? Is it service management? Is it DevOps? Is it agile? What kind of core competencies that your team needs to develop? And then you find out an appropriate game to do that. So we have simulation games for agile, for DevOps, for lean, for service management, because we think that these practitioners are doing day in and day out their work, but they need to relate to how these learnings can be applied in real-time practice, right? And then you put them into a learning process. It's a one-day simulation game, and nowadays we have moved everything from physical to digital mode, and you focus on, in a typical sense, you only have a certification exam like a DevOps Foundation or a DevOps leader and stuff like that, but there is no mechanisms to measure your on-the-job performance, and that's where I think the simulation games really differ in the form of functioning. And then you arrive at business results, the key business results, which is value, outcome, cost, and risk. Remember, as a part of the focus, we need to focus on value and outcome. What we have seen is worldwide, there's only 3% of the organizations worldwide are measuring results as part of value, outcome, cost, and risk. So it's very evident people put them into a training, but they don't get that value because it's more theoretical in nature. What we focus on business simulation is to see how we can apply some of the lessons in actual practice to deliver business results. So, objective and problem to desirable behaviors, to looking at the competencies, go through the learning process, be it your certification, but then after that, you apply this experiential learning to see how you can apply your lessons learned core concepts in actual reality. This is one example that I thought would be easy for you to understand. So one of the clients that we were serving had this problem like dissatisfied customers, like they were looking at net promoter score falling down. They had a poor availability of resources. They did not have a good knowledge base. They're wasting a lot of money. There was no control. It was completely frustrated because it was always escalation after escalation. Neither did the business enjoy it, or nor did the people enjoy that part. So some of the wish behavior that they focused was to have customer focus, to have all the incidents recorded, prioritize the SLA, give direct feedback. And once we do this, what kind of business results? So they were very clear in articulating what were the business results that were envisioned: improved customer satisfaction, improved availability of the staff, less wastage, and improved motivation. So the way we did that is just to get some of those elements in real practice. So I'll give you a first use case. It's a large company in the United States, and it had an offshore center in India. The service desk was failing miserably. So 25% of the customers were lost in 3 months. And it was relatively a new task force because they were getting the information from the US to the offshore center. And there was not a big leadership available. So the customer responsiveness, the technical prowess, and communications are all a failure. So we looked at this whole problem, and found out what are some of the undesirable behaviors. Well, the first one was there was no respect for customers or users, and they were throwing the solutions over the wall and hoping someone will use them. So it's like, oh, I've done my job. You figure it out how we need to get it done. So when we spoke with the offshore team, we understood that they did not work on checklists, they didn't have processes, they didn't have procedures. And with customers, they also had a language barrier because the way they spoke English to assimilate that information was a little difficult. And they had a technical knowledge and troubleshooting, but they're not very keen about customer service skills. So then, and the ownership of issues were also missing. So we identified some of the desirable attributes: how to take initiatives, how to take a sense of ownership, how to enable teamwork, how to look at quality in terms of first time resolution, how to follow the process without deviation, how to collaborate. So these were desirable attributes that the business and the stakeholders were keen to focus upon in order to change that results. I said, okay, this is a perfect list. And with this, which we call as the intake session, we went through the simulation called Mars Lander. So Mars Lander is a simulation game based on ITIL 4, which is on value streams and um, uh, no, service value chain, service value systems, and guiding principles. So we tried to simulate an actual scenario where you're going on a space to you on a mission to Mars. So you go around and then get back. So we tried to bring in all of those diverse roles: sales director, service desk, customer support, flight operations. We bring in new requests, features, feedback, events. So we try to simulate an actual mission control center like NASA and see how people work in multiple requests. So what we did was the intake session to identify their challenges, their expectations, looked at both on-site and offshore experience, looked at issues that they have, what desirable behaviors we need to inculcate in order to improvise the way we work. And after ITIL 4, which is the foundation, we lit the business simulation game of Mars Lander. And then we did this debriefing. And if you look at the results that we received, they had a good understanding on how to cling on to the process. The process adherence was very clearly seen because they learned a lot during the Mars Lander simulation. They also understood leadership and communication were so important when it comes to the protocols, formal and informal, and more focused on customer service, right? Focus on value. The guiding principles of focus on value. They focus on adopting service culture with result-oriented KPIs and metrics. So all in all, it made a lot more sense for working through it. Now, the business case two was on DevOps. So the key drivers were they had poor customer satisfaction scores, 40% of the projects that they took failed, and the business revenue and profitability was down. So a lot of teams that were working across in terms of Agile, Scrum, they were all not motivated because they were facing a lot of challenge. So business and IT were not on right terms. So they were actually fighting against each other. So we did this game called the Phoenix Project Simulation. And this is based on what we call as Biz DevOps. So we focus on all the DevOps principles that you are aware about: culture, automation, lean, measurement sharing, how to look at visualization, looking at value stream mapping, how to bring in continuous learning and development, look at flow. So we actually demonstrated results every round over round and measured in terms of business KPIs. How many deployments were we able to do it? How much were successful? How much was the dollar value that we made? Like we had to raise from $21 to $45. How did we go about doing that? And you can only do so much. So people really enjoyed because it was more practical in the way they can apply that and see the results. Our results after 6 months was the net promoter score came to about 88. There's a lot of retention of customers. The revenue and profitability grew by 25% and 18% year over year. And about 85% projects were now being delivered within the right time and quality. So some of the key takeaways of that episode of Business Case was how to manage attitude and behavior, how to bring in cross-functional collaboration with team, shared vision and goals. So do we kind of focus on the overall objective of why the project is being held at the first time, like the golden circle, why, and have the business and IT story integrated. We call as business and IT convergence rather than business and IT alignment part of it. So some of the lessons learned in the things that we did was experimentation and failure. Are we providing a forum for people to experiment, fail, and learn to innovate from where they operate today, right? So that is something that I think we tell a lot, but we don't give a psychological safety environment for people to experiment. And that's what this experimentation of the business simulation helped them to have a fail-safe experimentation where they can experiment on some of those key aspects of it. The other aspect that we thought, which is very important, was shared vision and values, right? We need to focus on a shared understanding. It should not be internally focused. Now, business and IT should not say, hey, I forgot you. I am looking at what is important for me as IT. So it's not like a watermelon syndrome. Everything looks green outside, but it's bleeding red. So we don't measure our value contribution to strategy. So these cards that you see are like Dilbert's card, which call as APC cards of ICT, which focuses on some of the common challenges that organizations end up when they talk about uh, issues, right? They are internally focused that you uh, own up your own goal, self goal. Managing cultures becomes very important. And what we have seen is that it's always between, hey, I and the business or IT and the business. Now, we cannot talk about it, particularly in the age of the customer, where business and IT has to be one single integrated unit. So them and us culture doesn't no longer work. We need to work together as one aspect. And bringing business, IT all together in part of the simulation game helps you to break the barriers and bring this level of sense of ownership and have fun through this whole journey. Well, you know that IT is not seen as an added value as a partner to the business. So we need to start to make sure that IT is becoming relevant, right? So it's not about business outsourcing IT. Business and IT should coexist to deliver value to the customers. And that means we need to start working right from the beginning till the end to collaborate as one single team. So today there's a lot of things, and with particularly with the COVID-19, the workplace dynamics is becoming a lot more different these days. I mean, having fun, collaborating with each other, and having a special talent in terms of, it could be you're an artist, it could be you're a dance specialist. So all of those stuff will have to make this. Are we blending both your professional and personal talent together to work as one team? So lastly, I want to leave you with a couple of things. One is key success factor is you have to integrate your learning with working, right? You have to measure behavior. And it's when you say about continual service improvement, we need to start to focus on, am I able to apply my learn into working and have fun through this whole exercise? That I make the desirable shift in terms of attitude, behavior, and culture. ABC stands for attitude, behavior, and culture. So create a sense of urgency, shared understanding of goals, look at empowering people to identify improvements, look at the end-to-end value chain, right? We talk about having an end-to-end view, break down the silos, translate theory into practice, and be focused on value, and the guiding principles becomes much more efficient. So we did an exercise of measuring people's scores that we saw that improved customer satisfaction, improved first call resolution, and improved staff satisfaction. So all that you need to measure is not about performance measures, but also behavioral measures. And that will give you a better insight of making right decisions. So make the right dashboards, right performance indicators to give you the insight to make decision making, to help and inform your customers. And in one of the case studies that we have seen, the first call resolution went up from 65 to 75%, representing 40,000 additional calls resolved, which is a 2 million kroner saved to the business. Okay. Last but not least, please understand happy people mean happy business. So that's the way that we need to focus on getting this gamification, having fun, but also making sure that we are able to leverage for business results. So I will stop here and I'll look forward to answering any of the Q&A. I hope you enjoyed this and I look forward to hearing from you too.